Hello, everybody. We were in a conversation with Rashida Bain, and I think, the connection sort of got lost. So I have started this live again, and I'm waiting for her to come back. Yeah, thank you again, everybody, for joining in. We were in a conversation with Rashida Bain, and she was telling us where she was from. She's currently in Boston. It's around 9:30 a.m. there, and she was talking about her journey, how she went ahead with her education, how she, wasn't very clear. She was doing textile initially, and then she came back and she said, "This is not for me. I should go in for a different." Let me just let me know with a thumbs up. I don't know why there's a connection issue right now, but how many of you have rejoined? Just let me know with a thumbs up, guys. So I have invited her again, and I'm hoping that she'll join in. Yes. So I'm just waiting for Rashida Bain to accept the invitation and come back. Thank you so much. There was a slight hitch. I tried to save the previous live and I've started the live again. I'm really not sure though.
Yeah, I
But it
mean,
was a
this is like
wonderful, yeah, this is, technology, and I think
hard.
it keeps happening. It's a part and parcel of doing whatever you're doing. Okay, so you were saying that you are from Mumbai and you have been doing all your courses there, right? That's your base, and that you were in Javeri Bazaar, and I think that's the last sentence I heard. And okay, take it. Now
Okay,
let's go ahead.
okay, okay, great. So yeah, we'll get back. So yes, so I started my freelance business right in Mumbai. Then I worked for 2 years in the jewelry industry as well, for e-commerce websites who were selling jewelry online. There is where I made a lot of my connections. I mean, almost all of my connections in the industry. So I highly encourage, even if you want to do your own business, I would really encourage that you work in the industry because that is where you'll make connections and, like karigars, gemstones, this and that. Because as I said, it's all about trust. So you really need those strong connections to succeed. And then then basically I got married. I had to move to the US. So, but because I had worked there and I had those strong connections, I can still use them and I can give you what I'm doing today.
Oh, fantastic. Lovely. Wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, for somebody who is a layman, or maybe it's just a young adult who is thinking, okay, maybe I should go in this career or this career. What would be the steps involved? Like if I am going ahead with a jewelry, what would be involved? Now, you have told me, I do understand that there's technology involved, there's, knowledge of what stones are there, which is involved, and the designing is involved. Okay, that is something which is understandable. But how do you move ahead with it? Like if I'm your client, I've come to you, you have given me you have had your consultations with me, and we have, say, finalized on the design part of it. And
Mhm.
I want a ring or something, okay, a ring and a bracelet or something. So, what is the next procedure from there?
Sure. Again, the answer will vary depending on the design, but just to give you a little overview, what happens is the first step is that they would make the metal, right? So if it is 18 karat gold, it needs to be a 75% gold, 25% other metals. And so that kind of calculation happens. They would make the gold. Then there are various things. So they would either create a plate and then they would cut out the design. We use saw blades, like very fine saw blades to cut out designs, or there are so many machinery and equipments involved because this is kind of like sculpting. So you know how while sculpting you need different chisels and hammers, you need different kind of equipments here as well. So the karigar would do everything that he has to do to create the outer design. Then they would set it in wax. So suppose there are like 5 flowers in your bracelet. So he would cut out those 5 flowers, he would set it in wax, and then he would show it to me for approval, saying that, okay, this was your design, this is how it's going to look like. What do you think? And that is the stage where there is still flexibility. So I can show it to the client and be like, hey, see, this is what it's looking at. Because what I'm showing to the client is just a sketch. I have the design in my mind. The client also needs to be on the same page, right? Because but it shouldn't be like, oh, this is not what I had imagined and things like that. So it's very, communication is really important here. So then I would show the client that this is what it's looking at. Do we need any changes? Have another session there. Then they would so depending on the design, they would basically make space for the gemstones. They would have gemstones set in. Then once everything is done, there would be another picture sent, or video call or whatever it is, depending on the design. And then we would again see, approve, see if we need to add anything, things like that. Then once everything is done, the metal would go into polishing. So it's basically this wheel that turns very fast and kind of scrapes metal so that you get that shine. And
Mm-hmm.
even after polishing, we also do a layer of plating where we coat the jewelry piece with another layer, because it's very easy for jewelry to get scratched, right? So with that layer gives an added protection. So that is kind of the steps for jewelry. If there is computer design involved, then before all this, there is another step of creating the design on computer. Then a wax piece comes out, like you 3D print that design, and then you create a mold, which is difficult to explain. I do have some posts though, which whoever is interested in knowing about, you can send a message to Farida Bain or me, and I'm happy to share that post with you so that you can see the process. And then once that mold is created,
I would just ask all of my audiences who are watching right now and be when will be watching later, do follow her account so that whatever is posted over there, especially if you are interested, you will get first-hand information with her. Am I right? So yes, please
yeah,
to go ahead and follow her account. Your account is Rashida at Rashida Goryawala.
correct, yes.
Yes.
And absolutely, feel free to reach out with any other questions as well. I'm always happy to help. It's lovely to see, young people getting into the jewelry industry and trying to figure things out. So happy to help however I can. So yeah, basically that is kind of there are two differences. One is like purely handmade, and the other is when you 3D print it and you go through that process. Even if you 3D print it, you will have to work on it through hand because there's like filing, finishing, and all of that that needs to happen. So it is a very creative process. I really wish I can record a reel or a live someday where you can see how things happen because,
Seriously, we
oh
would
my
love
God.
it. Seriously, we would love it. I mean, if you could seriously do that, I do understand that there are things involved,
Mhm.
all sorts of steps involved. But yes, I would definitely, love to see how the entire process goes. And okay, on how much time does it take for the entire process from A to Z? How much time does it take?
Great question. So it again depends on the design, but usually I would say it would take, if I'm just working on one piece, it would generally take 5 to 7 days because depending on what the process is. So say if you need to source gemstones, it takes a few, hours or so to source the gemstone. If there is enamel involved, then you need it to, enamel is basically coloring where you put different colors. There's like glass pieces and you infuse glass and you create colors. So that requires a few hours and even a few days. Sometimes if you need it to dry off, computer design takes quite a while because you need to 3D print it. There is mold, then so there are a lot of steps, heavy machinery and all of that. So that at least adds at least 2 to 3 more days to the process. But overall, I would say if you place an order, I would expect to see your design finalizing in about 7 to 10 days.
Lovely, fantastic. Okay, now everybody, this first and foremost, welcome to the live. I am with Rashida bin Goryawala. She is right now in Boston, and it must be around 9:45 or 9:50 there right now, AM, of course. And we are talking about jewelry designing. She's an instant jewelry advisor. Okay, and do follow her account, and especially for young adults, if you have questions, go ahead and ask them, because I think this, you will have an instant expert advice. By now, you must have understood that she's somebody who has knowledge in her subject, right? By now, you would have understood that. So go ahead and ask questions to her. And if you are maybe watching it at a later on date, go ahead and follow her account as well. Okay? That's one thing. And thank you everybody for joining in. Now, uh, you know, um, Rashida Bin, let me just, ask a question which has come to me. Okay? So one of them have asked, if a woman or a man, it's okay, okay. If a woman or a man has an interest and wants to learn this art, okay, how much time, energy, and money would it take to learn and establish themselves? Okay, I
Right.
think there's a
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's a little lag, but I can hear you. So if you can
you
hear
can
me, I
hear
can
me.
go ahead.
Oh, lovely. Yes, I can hear you. Please do go ahead.
Okay, great. So about time, there are so many courses in jewelry designing. So I took the 3-year diploma course. So I invested 3 years in this to learn everything about the industry, including a 6-month internship with like a mass manufacturing jewelry company. So that was what I did. You can invest as less as 6 months, but I would not recommend that if you want like a good career, because there are individual courses for just designing or just computer designing or only manufacturing as well. Most of, at least based on my experience, the people that I have seen who are doing these small courses are the ones who already have a jewelry business from their forefathers. So they already have something established. They want to enter that industry. So they're just polishing on some, maybe design skills or cat or computer design skills or something like that. So if you are just someone who has no jewelry background, I highly recommend doing the 3-year course. Otherwise, at least if you just want to give yourself 1 year, at least do the manual design and the manufacturing course, so that you don't make unrealistic designs. Basically, you know what goes into manufacturing and what can happen, what are the possibilities. So you will become a realistic designer. That's what I would recommend. And for money, I'm not sure of the current rate. I think 6 years ago, six. I'm sorry, I don't remember the timeline, but I think around 2011 or 12, I invested 3 lakhs for this course. Now I'm sure the rate must have increased, but that's kind of the investment that you look at. Yeah.
Okay. I hope that's answering question. There's one question which we have had. Hi, I'm Zian. I did my CAT course in jewelry designing. What else I need to add in my course? Please suggest.
Okay, great question, Jan. So let me tell you, there is a great scope for CAD designing as well, because there are so many designers and manufacturers who are looking for a CAD designer. So if you are someone who wants to build your niche and expertise in CAD, you can definitely go ahead. There are so many companies hiring interns, trainers, where you can learn CAD. I mean, you already have the basics, but you can also learn more skills and also get paid, while you're working with them. So if that is all that you want to do, you can definitely do that. Um, Now, depending on what else you need to add in your course, I would suggest manufacturing, because it depends on what you want to do. If you just want to be a CAD designer, this course is more than enough. But if you do manufacturing, you would learn some nuances about stone setting and the kind of thickness that you need. So, because I'm sorry if this bores everyone, but just for you specifically, there are so many details that you need in a design, so that if you understand the manufacturing process, you would make a realistic CAD design there as well. So I would definitely recommend doing that. But if you want to share more about like your background and what your goals are, please feel free to message me and we can talk.
So one thing is for sure that this is good. This is one particular course which requires fine knowledge. So I would definitely say go ahead, invest your time. Initially, the most important thing I feel for any young person to do is to understand their subject, their skill well, and what else is required for your career, all right, for your career growth. So initially give that time for your career, I would say that. Okay, secondly, thank you for your questions. And if you have any other question, go ahead, ask it here, or anybody else, if you have questions, go ahead, feel free to connect with Rashida bin. I'm sure she'll be in a position to counsel you better as to what you can do best, right? Am I right, Rashida bin here?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just one more point I wanted to point out on the investment of time perspective. I started making jewelry within 6 months of my course, because I realized, I could do that. I could easily be like, oh no, I'm just going to study right now, and then once I finish everything, I'm going to focus on getting my business up. But when I was in college, I knew I had access to so many amazing professors. So if I'm dealing with some gemstones, I would get those stones to college. I would see them with my professor and kind of understand, which is a better stone. So I had access to those resources. In these creative fields, you will get the maximum out of learning when you take the initiative. So your professors would be amazing. They would know everything, but they will just teach you the syllabus until you come up with those questions that you need answers to. So
That is,
don't
I
worry about
think,
the time
true.
investment.
That is, I think, true with any profession. You want,
Correct.
you need to be really passionate about it. You need to be very passionate and professional in your work, especially if you want to reach to a certain pinnacle. All right. And I think that, catching hold of your teacher and asking him or her, okay, what is the next step possible? When you go and ask, I feel they answer you. They're like basically waiting for somebody to go and ask them and show that kind of interest. What do you think, Rashida Bhai?
Absolutely. In fact, a lot of teachers, because they are teaching, they feel a little disconnected from the industry sometimes. So when you come to them asking practical questions, sometimes even if they don't know the answer, they will connect with their connections and give you that answer. And they'll be like, thank you so much for asking me that question. So it's kind of a two-way deal. So they will definitely do their best to get you that answer. In fact, because our entire batch was so proactive that way, our college, they gave us this opportunity to run a jewelry show. You know how there are fashion shows like models and all of that. They gave us this platform to create our jewelry designs. So there were five of us, and we actually walked the ramp. There were models. There was this entire glamorous industry that happened. But that happened. We were the first batch to do that, right? The college had been going on for years, but because we were so proactive, our batch was the first batch who was given this opportunity. So imagine the kind of opportunities and doors that you open for yourself when you are proactive.
Absolutely. I so agree. I so agree on this. And in fact, from my own background, because I'm having a counseling background, I have seen people keeping quiet because we are so scared that we shouldn't end up being wrong. What if my question is wrong? What if people laugh at me? What if things don't work out? What will people think about me? When we end up thinking of those questions, they somehow hold us back. And that's when, uh, things just don't work out. So I would definitely say, even if you're making a mistake, make it big deal, yeah. The proactive part, I loved it. I totally loved it. And I'm sure anybody watching,